What's the best way to keep track of invoices that you send out to different clients? Say you're a small business, you would like to manage all your invoices in Microsoft Excel. Yeah, you can do it. I've been asked to do that, so we're gonna do a little video showing you how I've created a solution for that problem. Your business will have other specifics. If you would like me to adjust this file to meet exactly what you want for your business and your invoices, contact me on kenbraverman.com. Uh, it probably won't take that long to do and therefore won't be very expensive. That's the plan. We'll see how that goes, as I haven't really offered this specific service before. Most of my work is payroll related. So for small business payroll, this of course is an extension of that, in that it's other types of accounting work, including invoicing. So what do you do? What do you need? Let's make it easy. Let's make it understandable. You just need a client list with client information. I've put 4 things in here: name, address, phone number, and email. You might record other information from your client. If so, we will add in whatever that new additional information is. And we'll incorporate it into the invoice if we have to. Just understand it's kind of indefinite. Well, as for entering in information, every time you have a new client, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put that client in. Say you've got, new client, new client 2. You would put whatever their address is, but you don't have to. And you can put the phone number, but you don't have to. But you do need to put a client name. Next thing you need is to gather information about the invoice. This gives you a ton of flexibility to do whatever you want. So you go one by one, and what these titles say: invoice number. Do you know what the invoice number is? Well, one cool thing you can do here in Excel is you can say that you want to highlight duplicate values, which means that if you didn't know what invoice number you were on, like, can I do invoice number 8? No, I already did it, invoice number 8. How about invoice 11? Sure. How about, make them bigger if you don't want people to know that you haven't sent out any invoices yet with this system. So you can change whatever the number is. You can put an invoice number. It'll pop up in yellow and pink if it's a duplicate invoice and you don't want it to be the same invoice. This is okay, where you have the same invoice and you have multiple line items on that invoice. That's fine. But if you don't want it to be the same invoice number, you just put an invoice number here. What's the invoice date? What's the date that you want to show on the invoice? Might not be today's date. That's a different date, which is going to be date generated, which is somewhere else. But what date do you want this to be? Is this for an end of the month invoice thing? All right, so let's call it an end of January invoice date is the date that it's supposed to be related to. That you want on the invoice saying this was the date that the invoice was processed. It should be today if you're doing it today. Has this invoice been paid yet? No, it's outstanding. So no, it has not been paid yet. Amount, how much is it for? Well, that's where we start to get into some of these other questions: hours, rate, activity date, client name. So let's say we're sending a bill out to new client 2. This shows up in a drop-down menu. All your client names are going to show up in a drop-down menu after you put them in here. What was the activity date? That's where the 131 goes. Maybe this was related to end of the month activity. What are we billing for? We're billing for monthly work. I don't know. More to come. You can put whatever detail and additional description you want. Any notes, you can put actual time in, time out hours if you track that way. That's also supported in here. Let's just say, though, that the monthly work amount, we just want to type right over the amount. We're like, this is $5,000 because we know exactly how much it is. We're doing a simple invoice. You don't have to worry about hours or rate. Notice that whenever you type over a formula here, it turns yellow because it knows that you've typed over a formula because you manually override what you want. Like, I just want to bill $5,000 on this invoice. That's all I want to do. Okay. Now you go to your invoice sheet. Your invoice sheet is going to have your name and logo up here, right? You totally can just move this around, paste whatever you want. You can hide stuff. You don't want to see this stuff here because it doesn't look as good with the arrows. So you hide it. What date was this generated? It's going to be connected to today's date whenever you're generating this as a PDF, which you then would attach to send out to whoever you're sending it to. Now, what else do you have in here? Got a bunch of information and it's connected to filter slicers. And what you want to do is you want to find out, well, what invoice am I trying to generate? I'm trying to generate after we refresh the pivot, because now we have all the new information is now just uploaded into our invoicing template. You want to bill for new client 2 on this invoice date of 2/2, invoice number 1101. Yeah, the date, it is outstanding. We know that. Voila, you can just print this and you've got an invoice. Don't like this data format? You can change it by changing number format using accounting with no $sign. There you go. Here's the amount. What if you need things like rates and hours in here? Okay. Well, then let's bring them in. Let's bring in rates and let's bring in hours and quantity. So this is our quantity, whatever we're doing, and this is the rate it is at. You may or may not want this in your invoicing template, depending on what you're invoicing. Up to you. I'm going to put 2 digits on all these numbers. And this is the process of just building whatever you want automatically in here. There's your rate. So some of the other invoices are going to have that kind of information. For example, invoice number 4 has a rate. It's mechanical parts for something. It's parts and mechanical parts. Voila, this is invoice number 4. If you just wanted to generate it, these things show up in blank unless you click the actual information. But it's nice because it shows you, for example, that you don't have an invoice date for this invoice number 4. And that means that you need to fix that. You need to put an invoice date in here. And now when you refresh, now all of a sudden the invoice date shows up here and you can get it to show up on your invoice. And this is your invoice. I mean, it's pretty bare bones. You can do anything you want. You can make awesome logos on it. You can have detailed payment instructions. You can have other information. If this thing goes super long, you can make this into 2 pages and make these things the header rows at the top. You can always have this being your header row. You can do that in page layout under print titles. Rows to repeat at the top could be all these rows, and then you won't have a problem no matter how big this thing gets. Let's make this thing enormous just to show you how flexible this is and what happens when you have a large data set, when you eventually start using this for the entire year and you have thousands of invoices. To show you what that actually looks like. So what we'll end up doing is we'll just pull a bunch of junk down. Give ourselves, notice I gave 100 slots here. You can have as many slots as you want. We're going to make this thing enormous for the end of the video here. So let's grab all this. Let's make this thing, let's have thousands and thousands of rows in here and really thousands of invoices. Yeah, we're up to like 3,000 invoices now. So go back to our big invoice sheet. We refresh. Yeah, it will overlap. Now look at how huge this thing is. Now you're obviously not going to most likely send all these invoices in one shot. You could if you really wanted to. I mean, a lot of these are, I guess this, we've got so many new clients now. That's nice. It created new clients everywhere. So generally you're not going to send all, but you could. And if you generate a PDF, it would make this thing several pages long. But in general, you won't want to do that. If it goes more than a page or 2, then you just change the print area basically under the page layout, is you highlight just what you want to highlight. So, when we grab a bunch of these, let's do. It doesn't really matter. The point is that if you know, that's what I'm saying, you're gonna want to have some level of Excel knowledge here. You're gonna want to be able to change your print area for a big invoice, but that's generally not going to be an issue. Usually your invoices are going to have a standard 1 or 2 page size that they generally are, and we'll customize it for your situation. That's why I don't recommend putting anything on the bottom of the sheet. Put all your information up at the top and then just have the table as big as it needs to be. So this is, the basic attempt at building a invoicing database and creating invoices. If you'd like a copy and you want me to work on this for you, for your business, just contact me on kenbraverman.com and I'll let you know what I can do for you. If you like what you see here in this sheet and don't want to go and create it yourself, then I can get you a copy very inexpensively. All right, good luck. Invoicing should be easy, just like payroll. We are making it so.